You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
I'm Drew Leiter.
And I'm Cletus Jacobs.
And welcome to episode 12 of Legends of the DCU. Tonight we're talking Absolute Flash number 9 and 10, Absolute Batman number 15, and The Sandman, season 2, episode 12, Death, the High Cost of Living. But before we get into that, let's talk some DC news. All right, Cletus, first up for DC news, Justice League Unlimited number 18 officially brings back Captain Marvel after 15 years of being Shazam. I was kind of surprised by that when I saw that article.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked by this because clearly Wade and some other people were pushing strongly back towards calling him Captain Marvel, which, like, I get it because it's the character's history and he's for, the vast majority of that character's existence. That's what he's been called. I don't know, man. I still feel like they lost out on the Captain Marvel wars, so to speak. And that I understand that Shazam is the name of the wizard and that purists want to keep it that way. I totally get it. It's a valid argument. I just felt like Shazam was a more unique name that helped differentiate him and save confusion. You know what I mean? Like, the first movie was a hit, Drew, and I don't feel like anybody, I don't know, off-put by, like, I feel like Shazam was pretty easy to roll with, I thought. I feel like if you make that same movie, but it's Captain Marvel, I feel like that generates considerable confusion.
I understand where you're coming from, but I'm old school. I'm glad the Captain Marvel name's coming back. So, I mean, they cannot use it as the title for the comic book because it's copyrighted by Marvel. So they can't call any of his books Captain Marvel. I can see how it could be confusing, but to me, I grew up with the name Captain Marvel, and it's who he's always been for me. So I don't have any problems with them going back and using Captain Marvel. I could see how it could get confusing for moviegoers, but I think for comic fans, it works.
I agree. And honestly, who knows when the next time we'll even see him in a film is, because it'll probably be a bit.
Probably. All right, moving on to our next bit of DC news. DC Studios has released a trailer for Clayface, which hits theaters on October 23rd. The horror film, which is directed by James Watkins, will track the origins of the shape-shifting villain, played by Tom Rhys-Harries. Clayface, who starts as struggling actor Matt Hagen, receives a highly experimental medical procedure after his face is disfigured in a knife attack. Although the experiment is successful at first, things ultimately don't go as planned, as the actor's body turns into clay that reshapes itself into anyone's appearance. I got to tell you, Cletus, that trailer that I saw, whew, I got to say that was kind of a little on the scary side.
But that's what it's supposed to be. I feel like the trailer delivered exactly what was promised. Horror is not my genre, but I'm pretty interested, Drew. The trailer really did it for me. I've been very intrigued by the premise. I've really liked the idea of making Clayface into a, kind of a body horror type film. And it's one genre that I feel like superhero stuff hasn't really fully succeeded in getting into. We've had a couple attempts. I know there was I think I wasn't X-Force, but it was one of the X-Men teams. They tried to do like a horror style film with the teen X-Men team. I can't think of their name. And it was like in a weird purgatory with release, and it finally got put out, and it kind of just got swept under the rug. And that was, I think, probably the highest profile attempt at superhero horror. We've also had James Gunn himself was it Brightburn, which is basically Superman if he was evil, which was again an interesting attempt, but not in the same kind of superhero universe, right? So I like the idea of doing this because I think it's a genre that we've not really seen superhero stuff go down in movies. Obviously in comics, we've seen that all the time, right? And I feel like it's been a little bit untapped. And I would love to see a film succeed there. And I think this has the potential to do it, Drew. I was impressed by the trailer, and I remain very intrigued by the idea of it.
Creepy. That was the word I was looking for earlier. When I
Yeah.
watched the
Yeah,
trailer, I found
I
it very
totally agree with
creepy.
you.
I'm excited to check it out too. We know Clayface is going to be it, obviously, but I'm wondering if there's going to be any other heroes or villains that show up during it, or if this is just going to be kind of a standalone thing. Is he going to be facing off against the GCPD? Are we going to get the hint of Batman in it at all? I don't know. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. I know most of the movie is going to focus on Clayface. I'm sure he'll be killing people, or maybe he'll have people after him. I don't know, but it looks really good.
I one thing I would really like to see, Drew, and I think something you could do that would be interesting is because we're already in the horror genre, I would love to see a film. This is a great opportunity for it, and I feel like they had the potential with Penguin, and they didn't really do it. Is to have a film from another character's perspective in which Batman exists, and you get it from that angle. You get the fear angle that Batman generates, right? That paranoia and like, is he lurking over the corner? Where is he? I feel like there's a real opportunity to do something really interesting with that because we'll get little glimpses of it in some Batman films, but obviously it's very brief, right? Because ultimately we're seeing it mostly from Batman's point of view, which makes sense because it's always his movie, right? He's the main character. I think it would be really, really interesting to more at length. We've seen like the first Suicide Squad movie kind of toyed with it a little bit, but didn't really, as with many things in the film, didn't really do a great job with that. But the idea was there, and I would love to see that idea fleshed out more.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right, and moving on to our last bit of DC news. A new HBO's Lantern motion poster, reveals that only one can wear the ring. Lanterns is a very grounded take on the Green Lantern Corps, and it's been billed as a true detective style tale from the start, with Hal and John investigating a murder on Earth. Still, there's speculations that the series will tie into the wider DCU by establishing the center as the franchise's big bad. That's potentially hinted at in the poster, as a mysterious circular logo can be seen in the middle of the ring that Hal and John will seemingly have to share in Lanterns. Discussing the series, Kyle Chandler said, "I've not had so much fun shooting something as I did that. The people on it were absolutely wonderful from the top to the bottom. And I can't say enough about Chris Mundy and the producers and the DC folk. It was an excellent experience, and I expect the show to be as good as the experience I had making it. Aaron Pierre, I worked with him, and we had a great time. And Kerry McDonald was just fantastic."
I'm really excited for the show, Drew, and I'm really, really excited for Kyle Chandler as Hal. And my biggest thing, the teaser where there can only be one wearing the ring, I like that, and the fact that Kyle Chandler is not 15 years ago Kyle Chandler makes me feel like this is probably the only time we're going to get to see him play that character. I really do not have high hopes about his survival rate of this show, and that really bums me out. But otherwise, Drew, I am so excited for this show. I can't wait. I like the idea of it being, a kind of cop-like show. We saw Grant Morrison leaned into that idea, and we've seen Johns from time to time would do it too in his run. And I like it. I think it really works. It suits the character. I wish that they weren't sharing a ring, which is from the one teaser that we got also suggests that there is a singular ring. But man, that's really my only complaint, Drew, is I wish I was confident that I'd see more Kyle Chandler.
I agree with you there. But only one can wear the ring, it says, and I'm wondering why. And I bet most fans are wondering why, especially since we have Guy in the universe and he has his own ring. So I'm very curious about why there's only one ring, and we don't know exactly when this takes place either.
It's true. Yeah, we know. I mean, we know Guy's going to be in it in some capacity, so there's nothing to base this off, Drew. But my gut says that it's going to be after Superman, but we don't know that, right? There's nothing that suggests that necessarily one way or the other. The only thing that I got from the trailer, Drew, was that it seemed pretty clear that John was meant to be Hal's successor and that Hal wasn't on board with that plan. That came through, I thought, pretty clearly in the trailer, and I think you can do something interesting in that. I don't love it selfishly, again, because, like, I don't want how they have to get like why can't we just have both? But again, other than that, there's a lot that I like about the idea of this, Drew. I just selfishly I want more Hal.
You're not the only one. I agree with you. I think we're not going to see Kyle Chandler after the season. But I do think that Aaron Pierre will probably make a good Jon Stewart. From what I saw in the trailer, it felt like it to me.
I agree. I
So,
just wish we could have our cake and eat it too. Like I don't feel like those characters should have to be mutually exclusive.
yeah, I agree with you there. And I'm very curious about the only one can wear the ring. So why can't we just have another ring?
Right. There's literally supposed to be what like 4,800 of them. Like we can't find a spare.
Yeah, there's also the Honor Corps lanterns.
There you go. Even more. Nearly 5,000 rings. Like we can do this. We can find the way.
Once we see the show, we'll see what their version of the Green Lantern Corps is. It may go back to old school where there could only be one lantern per sector. There was that rule for a long time. So John's run, I think, changed that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it was his run that changed that because before there could only be one per sector. So
So then what's Guy doing?
I don't
That
know.
would be my only question.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just my guess. And who knows? Maybe this series takes place before the Superman movie, and maybe when we actually see Guy, it'll be in the present time where it's just Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. Don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. All right. Well, that wraps up DC news for this week. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do our comics talk.
Life's busy, and it just keeps getting busier. So tune in now to the Cigar Nerds podcast. Figure out what movies are worth your time, what TV shows are worth your time, and most importantly, what cigars are worth your time. Because we review all three, with a little bit of science and a little bit of news thrown in. So check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com and on YouTube at Cigar Nerd Podcast.
And we're back. Let's talk Absolute Flash, number 9 and 10, Rogue's Revenge. Wally reels from a horrifying vision of a red-ringed black hole and a rotting hand clawing toward him. Snart snaps him out of it before the panic can take hold. The rogues press him to join them, insisting Rudy is in danger and that Thawne is the real threat. Grodd quietly confirms their story after reading their minds. Trickster secretly streams their plans to Project Olympus. Wally agrees to go along, unaware Thawne intends to use the rogues to deliver him. She believes he is the missing link between her grandfather's dimensional research and Barry Allen's work. En route to Fort Fox, Wally is struck by another red energy manifestation that shows him fragments of his past and future before Grodd pulls him back to reality. Thawne springs her trap the moment the rogues arrive, blasting the Prowler out of the sky. Thawne orders Trickster to secure Wally before he can recover. Wally breaks free and the rogues regroup, and the rogues realize their surprise attack has already failed. Thawne drags Rudy into the portal room, ignoring his desperate pleas. She coldly reveals that Wally is the true key she has been waiting for. Her dimensional breakthrough has been aimed at him all along. Thawne tells Rudy she was never on his side. She explains that Fort Fox's military cover was only ever a smokescreen. Her real goal has always been completing her grandfather's work. She believes Wally is the only one who can reopen the still point. She orders Rudy dragged away and the rogues marked for death. The rogues sweep the forest while Grodd shows Wally visions of Rudy and his own father. Their search is abruptly cut short when a gigantic, feral Rory crashes into the clearing. He attacks wildly, forcing the rogues into a desperate fight. A sudden storm rolls in and subdues him just as a now lucid Project Wizard arrives. Wally follows haunting visions of his past deeper into the lab complex. Trickster ambushes him and forces him towards Barry Allen's old lab. A skeletal hand bursts from the portal and seizes him as Thawne Eobard himself steps through. Thawne declares there can only be one and hurls Wally into the still point. Trapped in the red void as the portal seals shut, Wally is left completely cut off from escape. He turns to find a spectral Barry Allen waiting beside an alien from the crashed ship and a strange floating creature.
I like these two episodes a lot, Drew. I love the way that it's all kind of coalescing into things that we want to see. We got the rogues coming together, Weather Wizard joining up, right? We had seen him kind of isolated in an incident, and it was a little unclear to me whether that was going to stay that way. And it seems like he's joining up with that group. It seems like Mick potentially could also join up with that group because he gets knocked out. And then we get a look at a version of Eobard. Really interesting. His reaction, there can only be one, is when he sees his granddaughter. And that made me wonder, Drew, if there's a little, like, I don't know what the right word is, multiversal knowledge going on with him, where he's maybe potentially aware of the multiverse and knows that he's, like, Eobard is the Reverse Flash, and seeing there being another Thawne is, like, that's not how most universes are supposed to go. I don't know, Drew. I mean, that guy could be wildly off base, but that made me a little bit interested. I was like, because it wasn't like to the Flash, right? He's not reacting to Wally having super speed. It's when he sees his granddaughter. That's what he says there can only be one to, and that made me interested in, like, in a metafictional way, like, is he aware that that's a major change in this universe, right? That the Thawne, the present day Thawne, is not Eobard, it's his granddaughter.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's really interesting what we're going to find out about Barry and stuff too. So I'm really looking forward to the next story arc. All right, moving on to our next title for this week. Absolute Batman number 15, The Joker. Alfred tells Batman that the Joker's public identity as Jack Grimm V is a fabrication. He explains that the supposed Grimm dynasty is a cover for a family that has secretly manipulated wars, industries, and governments since the 1980s. Their charities, orphanages, and even ARC-M related research were fronts for a global criminal empire. All of it was designed to hide the true nature of their power. Alfred's investigation suggests something even worse. He believes every Grimm across 5 generations may actually be the same immortal man, orchestrating chaos for more than a century. This figure imprisons his enemies on remote islands for years before finally killing them. Meanwhile, on one such island, the Joker hunts down a stranded man who turns out to be a missing FBI agent, Harvey Harris. He then transforms into a monstrous horned creature and kills him. Alfred confesses everything to Batman, leaving him visibly shaken. Batman walks out trying to process the implications of what he's heard. He has no idea the Joker has already returned to Gotham and is watching him from the same alley where he once performed. From there, the Joker retreats to a hidden lair beneath his manor to prepare whatever comes next. And I thought that was an interesting twist there, that in this universe, Joker's the one with the manor and his secret lair is underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the uber wealthy one. He's got the Batcave, literally, like, does the same clock thing, right? To go down, he's got the butler. Yeah, I really like that spin. Snyder has always known how to write a really good Joker story. That's always been his kind of bread and butter. I think a lot of his Hallmark stories, and he's obviously done other really great Batman stories, don't get me wrong, but a lot of, like, the big ones I feel like have been Joker based. And I didn't think that this one was an exception. This was really good. This was a really good sort of origin comic, essentially, for the Joker. We've seen him around, right? We've gotten bits and pieces. That ARC-M story that we got, or sorry, not ARC-M, but Arkham story we got of him was really good. And this was excellent. This was excellent. I loved slowly peeling back each layer. Like, you get the sanitized version of the story first, and then you get the slightly seedy story version next, and then it, like, keeps getting worse and worse until you realize it's the same guy the whole time. And as that's happening, it's also being juxtaposed next to him essentially, like, acting out the most dangerous game, right? Like, he's just hunting people on these islands for sport, which is an extremely Joker thing to do. Especially an uber wealthy Joker. Excellent, Drew. They're, like, close to a perfect issue. Like, I have no complaints about this. Artwork was good. The story was really good. I think it works so well with this version of the world that they're building. Really, really good.
I have to agree with you. I really enjoyed this too. Wasn't expecting to get the Joker already, but this was a great issue to reveal who he is. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Absolute Joker. This Absolute universe is just awesome. the deeper we get into it, the more excited I get. And all these issues we reviewed this week were just good.
I agree. And Flash is one that I feel like has really grown into itself well. Very similar, I think, to Green Lantern, where the way that both of the authors chose to initially approach their stories with a lot of mystery and a lot of lack of clarity of what was going on, I think made them slow starts. And I'm not saying it was the wrong choice, because I think ultimately in both cases, at least for me, it's paid off, because when you start to peel back what's going on in those worlds, it makes it more interesting, right? Because you get a little bit more, instead of giving it to you all at once in the first issue, they kind of make you wait and earn it, and it gets you, more on the edge of your seat wanting to get the next thing. And they've opened up the worlds, and both Green Lantern and Flash have started to feel more like, a very different take, right? Like very different visions, but also still a little bit more of what you kind of want and expect out of those books. And I really feel like they've both really grown into themselves well. And on top of that, you got all these other great books. It's kind of shocking to me, Drew, that obviously it's all subjective, right? We both have been huge fans. I'm sure not everybody is, but sales-wise, they're all hits. And and I'm not surprised, like they're all good. It's crazy that they haven't written a clunker yet. You really think they would have. Even the specials have been good.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially that Wonder Woman annual we just read recently. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was like not a waste of time. I mean, it wasn't necessary, but it wasn't a waste of time either. It was a good story. What DC is doing with the Absolute Universe is really impressive, really, really good. And also just what a huge boon for the company, Drew. This has been great. I don't know how else to put it. Like the sales that the Absolute Universe is generating is allowing them to retain better talent, right? And also, I think, take more chances on other books because they've got the sales behind them to be able to absorb if something doesn't work right? Like if you're desperate, if all your books are kind of wavering, and, in the last iteration of whatever DC's approach was, Marvel was dominating sales the last like 4 or 5 years before Absolute Universe started. Like if you looked at the top 20, it would basically be Batman and maybe one other book every once in a while. And now when you look at the sales, it's like every single Absolute book is on there, and it's Marvel is the one that's kind of on the back step. So it's been a huge success, both in terms of sales, but also just in quality. Like these books are so good.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, well, that wraps up our comic book talk for this week. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk the Sandman.
Ever wondered what the universe tastes like? Or why your best ideas hit at 2 a.m. over a slice of pizza?
Welcome to the Cosmic Pizza Podcast,
where science, pop culture, and curiosity collide.
4 co-hosts, 4 perspectives, and 0 boring conversations. We explore everything from sci-fi TV shows to films from each decade.
From conspiracy theories to our favorite foods.
It's deep. It's weird. And it's seriously fun.
New episodes every month.
So grab a slice,
kick back,
expand your mind with the Cosmic Pizza Podcast.
And we're back. Let's talk the Sandman, Season 2, Episode 12, Death, the High Cost of Living. Dear Sylvie, by the time you read this, I'll be dead. Sexton looks down at a Ziploc bag of pills, then changes I'll be dead to I'll be gone. Sexton continues to write, I know you said we shouldn't talk for a while, but I didn't want you to think my death had anything to do with you or us. The truth is, the planet is dying. Democracy is dead, and the human race is next, but not before we inflict as much damage on the planet and on each other as we possibly can. Suddenly, Sexton's roommate comes home, stating that he is not at the office. Sexton replies back that neither is she. The roommate chuckles, explaining that today she is playing truant and Amelia is helping her. Sexton quickly pushes his pills behind his Superman mug, which I thought that was pretty cool. They included a Superman mug right there.
I agree. And we get a Superman magnet later that kind of draws his attention. It was a nice little, even the Sandman comics have never, they've always been kind of it's Vertigo, right? So they do exist, in the DC realm, but they're mostly their own stories. And I liked this I felt like that caught the vibe of it, Drew, where, you get the Superman logo. And is it probably Superman, that exists in that world? No, probably not. But it's still a nice little nod.
Agreed. Sexton's roommate suggests he go to work at the cafe he sometimes works at, obviously wanting to be alone with Amelia. Sexton agrees, closing his laptop and sneaking his pills into his pocket. Amelia invites Sexton to come out with them tonight. The roommate starts arguing with Amelia because she doesn't want to go out. Amelia states she has already told Jackie that her, the roommate, and Sexton were all coming. As the women continue to argue, Sexton leaves. Sexton finds a place alone where he attempts to record his message to Sylvie on his phone. He stops when he notices a book lying on the ground. Looking around, Sexton finds more books and begins to pick them up. He comes across a pile of junk with a refrigerator on top. There is a Superman magnet on the door of the refrigerator. Sexton climbs up on top of the refrigerator and picks up the magnet. He stares at the magnet and then pulls out his Ziploc bag full of pills. And he stares back and forth between the Superman magnet and the pills. I like that scene, Cletus, because we can see that, Superman is an important character in his life. And he's looking back and forth between the magnet and the pills. And I imagine he's probably thinking, Superman would not want me to do this, but I don't really want to go on. So I like that scene.
I agree.
Sexton then puts the bag of pills into his back pocket. He leans down and places the magnet on the fridge. As he does, the refrigerator tips and Sexton falls. Sexton inhales sharply and doesn't move. I actually thought he was going to keep the magnet. I was surprised he put it back. But that refrigerator obviously was not stable.
I really thought that he died there, Drew. When death popped up there, I thought, oh, that's a weird way it's kind of like an ironic, like he was thinking about killing himself and then he ends up dying in a freak accident instead. I was like, yeah, that fits. I mean, that fits the Sandman world. And then it turns out to be your day off and he's totally fine. That was a nice little twist there, Drew, because I really was like, oh, that's a bummer for him.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I saw that happen and death appeared. I thought, oh, he's a goner. That killed him. And then I was surprised too when we find out it was her day off. Suddenly, a voice shouts, "Hello, is someone there?" Sexton shouts, "Yes," and then death appears. Sexton asks for help because he can't seem to move. Death pushes the refrigerator and then offers to help Sexton up. She holds out her hand and then stops herself, stating she is sorry, it is her day off. She then reaches back and puts out her hand and helps Sexton up. Okay, I was confused by that. She reaches out her hand, then pulls it back, says it's my day off, and then she reaches back out again. I'm like, what was the difference?
Because that's how she always completes the deal or the transaction, so to speak. Every time we see her essentially guide someone to the afterlife, Drew, she takes them by the hand. And so when she initially reaches out and then pulls back, she's like, wait, I'm not supposed to kill him or whatever, right? And then realizes, oh, it's my day off, it's okay, and then takes him by the hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense then.
Because if you think about skipping ahead, but if you think to the end of the episode, we see her reach out her hand again, right? And it doing her normal task.
Yes. Okay. Death notices that Sexton is bleeding. She invites him back to her place. She is only a few minutes away. She has plasters for his arm and might even be able to fix his jacket. After that, he's on his own. Sexton looks down at his phone and notices the screen is cracked. Sexton tosses the phone into the junk heap. On the way to her apartment, Death asks Sexton what he was doing back there. Sexton replies nothing. He was just thinking about how they've taken a perfectly good planet and turned it into a place to put all of the rubbish. Death states she quite likes it. At her apartment, as she is sewing up Sexton's jacket, Death introduces Sexton to her fish, Slim and Wandsworth. Sexton reveals that his name is Sexton Burnaville, and Death reveals that she is Death. She gets a day off every 100 years just to see what it's like to be human. But before we move on, we do find out that she gets a day off every 100 years, and I was just curious if any of the other Endless got a day off like that. I don't think we ever learned the answer to that, do we?
No, but I also don't know how necessary it is for some of the other, does Destiny really need a day off? Or Delirium? I feel like Delirium probably is mostly days off. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a really good question, Drew, but I got the sense that was a uniquely necessary thing for Death, right? Because all she's ever doing is effectively meeting people at the end of their lives. and never, in a sense, really experiencing life herself. And so that keeps her like perspective on it. It feels more necessary to her function than some of the other ones. Like, I don't know, would despair do it, Drew? You know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't really fit her thing. She'd just despair over it, right?
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
true.
Like, I don't know, and like desire would just do it, right? Like, they wouldn't wait 100 years to do what they wanted. They would just act on it. That's what desire does. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like to me personally, Drew, it felt like a uniquely death thing.
I guess that makes sense. Plus the fact that she's constantly working because people are dying all the time. You'd think she might actually need more breaks.
Right.
Sexton leaves Death's apartment and heads outside her building. He trips over a wire that has been suspiciously placed at the bottom of the stairs. As Sexton is examining the wire, Mad Hetty breaks a bottle. Mad Hetty uses the broken bottle to threaten Sexton to go back upstairs and knock on Death's door. When Death answers, she is surprised to see Sexton again. Then Mad Hetty reveals herself. Mad Hetty demands that Death find her soul for her. She didn't lose it. She hid it somewhere safe where no one could find it, especially Death. If you hide your soul from Death, you will never die. Mad Hetty rattles off some places she could have hid her soul. In a duck egg inside of a duck, inside a well, in a castle on an island surrounded by a lake, a fire guarded by 100 dragons, each more larger and ferocious than the last. Death tells Mad Hetty to help herself to whatever's in the fridge, and there is tea and biscuits in the cupboard. And it looks like I forgot to put that Death actually told Mad Hetty that she'd help her. Forgot to put that in my notes.
An important detail.
Yes, but what I find strange about this whole interaction here, I don't know why Mad Hetty had to basically force Sexton to have a confrontation with Death. I don't know, she seemed to be threatening when she didn't need to. I think if she would have just went and knocked on the door and asked Death, she probably would have just done it. I don't know why she felt the need to be threatening. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree, Drew, because Death's never really been one to. She's never been as standoffish as Dream or really any of the other Endless. And also, Mad Hetty seemed to be on pretty like known standing with all of the Endless, especially Death and Dream. So I would agree with you, Drew. It was an odd thing, but also ultimately within the context of this episode, it wasn't that big of a like, you know what I mean? It wasn't that finding her soul was less of a plot point than I thought it would be.
I agree with you there. I thought when they introduced that, we were going to be spending a bunch of time looking for her soul, but that wasn't really the focus.
It was such a lack of focus, it almost made me question why it was in the episode. I have to assume that this is based pretty closely on a story from the comics. And again, I will claim ignorance on that, but I wonder if it was a bigger plot point in the comic book story. Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea. I might be completely making that up, but it was such a lack of focus, and the resolution to it wasn't that big of a deal either to me, to the point where I was like, I don't know that we even needed this. The only thing I can think, Drew, is they needed some sort of framing device to have Mad Hetty show up at the end of the episode to help Sexton resolve the end. But like, I honestly, Drew, feel like that could have been anybody. I don't know that that needed to be Mad Hetty. I feel like we could have had either Dream pop up, you know, depending on when they wanted this story to be set. I think that would have worked also. I don't know. I agree with you. It wasn't totally clear why she had to resort to blackmail to do it, but then also it wasn't important enough that I felt like we could have potentially used that screen time for anything else.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird. When I get to that story, I guess it'll be interesting to compare it to this. Sexton wonders if Death is going to call the police because there is a homicidal mad woman in her flat. Death replies that Sexton would be mad too if he'd lost his soul. I just find it funny how Death always puts a positive spin on stuff. She's so positive for being Death.
Extremely positive, and she's so fun. I thought one of the things this episode does really well, Drew, and we'll get into it more here in a second, but Sexton is constantly amazed at how people want to do nice things for Death because she's just so pleasant to be around, right? Like she's very positive, very easygoing and encouraging and upbeat. And he's just the worst. He is such a stick in the mud for so much of the episode. And that is, I mean, again, that's the point. The character arc is his. The character growth that we see over the episode is his, and it's a very satisfying one. But they do a really good job at the beginning because he's so miserable. You're just like, dude, come on, man.
Totally agree there. Death hails a cab because there are many things she wants to do. Go to an opera. She wants to get chai in the queue at Dish Room. She wants to go to a party, then maybe an after party. She also wants to get a full English at the Regency Cafe. And of course, she promised Mad Hetty that she would find her soul. After a few minutes of pondering, the taxi driver suggests a drive through the park. During their drive, Death asks the taxi driver what makes life worth living, and the taxi driver answers that at the end of her night shift, when the sun's just coming up and she has London all to herself, just for a brief moment, everything feels possible. Next, Death asks Sexton what makes his life worth living. Sexton answers, the moment when your flatmate stops having sex and you get to go home. He does not want to be out, does he?
He doesn't want to do it. He just doesn't. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like, he's decided that he's over everything, right, and is ready to just move on. And it's reflected in his act. He doesn't want to go out. He doesn't want to be around anybody. They do a really good job characterizing him, and the actor does a great job showing that growth, because it's so, the difference between the way he's playing the character in this scene to when we get to the end is very noticeable.
The taxi driver suggests that they go to the Undercut Club. It's just down the road. Sexton states if you like crowds, overpriced drinks, and drugged up wannabe cyberpunks who look like they escaped from a bad movie, it's the place to be. Sexton tells Death he'll get her in the club, but he's not going. Death wonders if it's because of Sylvie. Sexton wants to know how Death knows about Sylvie. Death states she knows everyone. It's her job. Sexton runs into his flatmate, Billy. Sexton introduces Death as Dee Dee. Billy explains that she got into a fight with Amelia because she accused her of being a sex addict. So Billy and her came here. In the club, Death meets Theo, who is the manager, house DJ, club promoter, and their host for the evening. Sexton adds that Theo is friends with Sylvie. Theo gives them all drinks on the house. Theo wonders how long that Sexton has known Dee Dee. Sexton states that he's only met her a few hours ago. They are not together. In that case, Theo is interested even though he has other girlfriends. Theo finds Dee Dee and tells her he admires her ink. Dee Dee states that it represents immortality. Theo asks Dee Dee if she wants to dance, and Dee Dee states that she would love to, but she came with Sexton. Theo states that Sexton doesn't dance, at least not according to Sylvie. Dee Dee relents. Billy asks Sexton what is wrong with him. Dee Dee likes him. Sexton explains that she likes everyone. Sexton reveals that Dee Dee is really Death. A few minutes later, Jackie notices Sexton standing by himself. Sexton mentions that he wants to give up. Jackie tells him a story about a friend of hers that was abused by her father and a few of her father's friends. Their family fiction was that she loved hunting and fishing, which is why he would take her away on these weekend trips with all his friends. One of these men was a police officer and another a lawyer. There was no one she could tell. So one day she got a hold of one of her father's hunting knives and locked herself in the bathroom and started to cut. Jackie is only telling him this because she woke up in a hospital and was still glad to be alive. I'm going to stop there for a minute because that story got deep quick.
Yeah.
You know, it was probably the most serious part of the episode. After Jackie reveals that story to Sexton, after that, I noticed we start seeing him change his mind about what he was planning on doing. And also, like in the scene, how when Jackie looks down at her arms, you see she has coverings on them, probably covering up scars.
Yeah, Drew, I liked that conversation too, and I was really, the entire time he's in the nightclub with her, it's just killing me because she is so clearly interested in him, right? And is, again, a genuinely nice person. Plus, he's hanging around with Dee Dee, who's also very nice, genuine person, and he's such a stick in the mud. You're like, dude, come on, man. You're still moping. I know he says it's not about the ex-girlfriend, but, like, it is about the ex-girlfriend. And he's got two different women. And I know Dee Dee is just he's just a friend guiding her through the day. I get that, but like he's got two women that are giving an opportunity to have fun for the night and like go out and like be happy and do stuff, and he just refuses. Like steadfastly, it's like, no, I will be a stick in the mud, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Dee Dee appears telling Sexton that this club used to be a department store. Theo has invited them on a tour. Theo takes Dee Dee and Sexton to a storeroom where Dee Dee believes he has private parties. Theo states they are having one right now. Theo rips the ankh necklace from around her neck, believing it to be the source of Death's power. Death states it is not a weapon, but a symbol. Theo states it is a sigil, her sigil. From now on, he's going to decide who lives and dies. Death states that is not how it works, and Theo states she better hope it does, and Theo locks them in the storeroom. Sexton asks if she told Theo she was Death. Death realizes she didn't have to. Theo summoned her there. Death finds a spell book. We see a spell book, and then I don't know what kind of symbols were on the ground. If they didn't really look like a pentagram that I'm used to seeing, but he had some sort of markings on the ground like he was using magic to summon her there. But it's weird, if he summoned her there somehow, why didn't she just appear there instead of just coming to the club? I don't know. It was a little confusing, I thought.
I don't know that he actually succeeded in summoning her there. I mean, I guess maybe indirectly because she shows up at the nightclub, but that feels coincidental to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Drew, but I got the sense that the summoning didn't, because he doesn't fundamentally, Drew, he doesn't understand how it works, right? Like he snatches her sigil thinking it will do something that it doesn't do. And so at least, and again, I might be wrong, I got the impression that he attempted to summon her and it didn't actually work, and by coincidence she still showed up.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And that also makes sense because at the beginning of the series, when Burgess, I think that was his name, when he tries to summon Death too, but he ended up getting Dream. That's sort of what it reminded me of, but it didn't feel like it worked. So, anyways, Sexton searches the storeroom and finds a big paddle. It may not open the door, but it'll open Theo's skull. Death tells him no. She may be Death, but she doesn't go around killing people. Death states that people have free will. She and her siblings have their duties, except for one day every 100 years. Sexton smiles and then grabs some marbles from the shelf. He places them at the entrance of the door. When Theo comes back, he'll slip on them, fall, non-fatally, and then they can escape. Death smiles. What a difference a day makes. The sleeping pill's in his pocket. Today, Sexton wants to live. Theo returns with a gun. Death wants to know where her ankh is. Theo replies, it is in the bottom of the Thames. It doesn't work. Theo wants to bring back his girlfriend, Natalie. She overdosed and Theo blames himself. Death states she can't do that. Theo puts a gun to his own head. If Death can't bring back Natalie, then she can take him too. Sexton grabs the gun and both he and Theo fall on the marbles. Sexton is okay, but Theo has hit his head. Death tells Sexton to call an ambulance. Theo begs Death to bring back Natalie, but she tells him it doesn't work that way. Theo asks if she is taking him, and Death replies, not today. Today is her day off. The EMTs tell Sexton that Theo is going to be okay. He may have a concussion, so they're going to keep him overnight. Theo suggests that they go see him tomorrow, and Death states she can't. She only gets one day off. Death tells Sexton it wasn't the day she wanted, but it was the day she needed. Death buys a new necklace. It's not an ankh. She buys it for £2, which this interaction was funny because when they stop and look at the necklaces there, Sexton assumes she's going to get it for free and says as much, but then the jewelry dealer wants money for it. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, but even that serves a purpose, right? Because it leaves her with the 2 pence, which is exactly what she needs for the end of the road. So even that worked out exactly as intended.
Yeah, it did. Later, while sitting on a bench, Death states she had a good day. She gives Sexton her 2 pences and the necklace. Death states the necklace is for Mad Hetty. Death kisses Sexton on the cheek and tells him, thank you for a lovely day. Death falls backward into a pool of water and dies. Mad Hetty appears and tells Sexton that she is dead and he can't bring her back. Mad Hetty takes the 2 pences and puts a coin on each of her eyes, stating it is the price of death. Sexton gives Mad Hetty the necklace that contains her soul. Mad Hetty opens the locket that is a picture of her baby girl, Cordelia. She wasn't Mad Hetty back then, and her name was Henrietta. She lived in a fine house. Back at his apartment, Sexton is looking at the letter he is writing to Sylvie. Billy answers the door, and Amelia and Jackie stop by. They wanted to make sure Sexton was all right. Sexton deletes the email and then makes Jackie a cup of tea. Now, that's where I ended my notes, Cletus, but we do have that last scene where Death appears at her own body, and we see her reach down and grab her own hand like she's taking herself to the afterlife. I thought it was a weird scene.
I think it's an interesting scene because it almost is like they create a version of her that is human, but that human is only allowed to live for 24 hours. Because, like, Death can't die, right? So it almost has to be like a different copy of herself. That was kind of how I interpreted it.
I actually thought they might merge together or something, and they didn't do that. So, I don't know. I just found it to be an interesting scene, not knowing what they were going to do with that other body, if she was taking it to the afterlife. Is there...
Yeah, I think that's what... Because at the beginning of the episode, she says she's technically 1 day old. So
yeah, she does, doesn't she?
That body is essentially created as a human for 1 day, and that human's allowed to live for 24 hours.
Makes you wonder how many deaths are in the afterlife.
I enjoyed this episode, Drew. Again, I really enjoyed Sexton's character arc. I liked seeing Death really enjoy just humanity and life, right? And kind of a celebration of life. I thought that was really nice. I know it's supposed to be a standalone episode like we got in the last show. I do kind of wish they had had some sort of appearance of one of the 2 dreamings. I think that would have been nice, but that's a very minor complaint, an extremely minor complaint. I really enjoyed this. And I wouldn't really say it's a send-off, right? Because it's meant to kind of stand on its own as like a bonus story. But I do think it does make sense, I think, in some ways thematically to watch this after having watched season 2.
I also kind of wish they would have had Dream appear in it too. Either version would have been fine. Just kind of tie it up. I did think this was a good standalone episode. And maybe one of the reasons they didn't want to put Dream in it is they did a good job wrapping it up in the last episode.
I have no complaints whatsoever about the show. I think they really nailed it, especially the landing of this season. I thought they did really well. But I do feel like there was potentially an opportunity to do like an anthology version of this as well and have these sort of standalone stories set within the Sandman universe, and we will for sure not see that. That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a shame because I do think there would have been potential there to do that. I really like this idea though, and I really honestly, Drew, especially with like superhero stuff, I feel like I wish some other shows would consider replicating this. You know, a lot of times they get with a lot of the superhero stuff, it gets baked into the season, and they'll have like a fillers to kind of standalone episode. But it would be interesting, like right now, for example, Daredevil Born Again is going on, and it's very much a continuing episodic story, and it's good. I'm very much enjoying it. But like if after the end of the like story arc, they then gave you like 1 or 2 bonus episodes of just standalone Daredevil stories that are free from the continuity of the show, you know what I mean? Like, you know, within the world, but really just a focused kind of bottle episode. I wouldn't complain, Drew. I kind of wish other shows would consider doing something like this. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, I agree with you. You could do quite a few stories that were standalone like that. Sometimes when they do some of those big story arcs, you do get a lot of those filler episodes. They could actually shorten the regular stuff without having the filler and have some standalone stories in between. So, yeah, I agree with you. All right, well, that wraps up our episode for this week. Do you have a shout out, Cletus?
Yeah, this is kind of a random shout out, but my wife and I are putting up like a framed collage of different comic book covers. So like I'm putting like a single comic in a frame, right? So I'm not damaging the comic, don't you worry, listeners. But we're hanging it up on a wall, and I'm having a really fun time picking out. I've had a lot of different, like variant covers that I've picked specifically because I love the artwork on the cover. And one that I thought was really fun, I wanted to shout out about, Drew, was Sinestro number 11 came out when DC was doing a special retro movie poster variant. And so there are some really other cool ones. So like Green Lantern, for example, is an homage to 2001 Space Odyssey and is really cool. But the Sinestro one is the old, not the TV show, but the 1970s Westworld movie, and they've changed it to be like Sinestro themed instead of Westworld, but it's really cool looking. I just thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty neat, and I wanted to shout out about it. I might shout out about a couple of the issues that we ended up picking out as well, because I just think some of the artwork got super creative. But that one, again, that one's a variant cover of Sinestro number 11.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now online. It looks pretty cool.
Right? And it matches up super well with the Westworld poster. Like, it's a very close replica. It's cool. And the whole line that they did, like I said, there are a lot. I named the Green Lantern one, but there are a bunch of really cool ones that they did for that month. And I have a bunch of. At that time, I think DC was trying to push some different special variants as a way to push sales. And so I actually have the Sinestro one is only like 20 something issues, and I have like 5 or 6 variant covers from it. So it was obviously it was a book that I was wanting to get anyway, but DC was in the middle of doing some really fun and creative covers at the time.
I like how they put his tagline on there. Let those who try to stop what's right burn like my power, Sinestro's might. So yeah, I like that cover too. That's pretty cool. All right, and for my shout out, I got to shout out that now I'm a pops. So over the weekend, my first granddaughter was born. So first grandchild. Was very excited about that, to meet her, because now I get to spoil her and get her into comic book stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats, man. That's really great.
It's fun because now I can just hold her and give her back. She's going to be very spoiled, and her parents are big Star Wars fans, so they've already got like a baby Yoda, stuffed baby Yoda for her and stuff like that. When she gets a little older, I'm going to get her a lightsaber she can hold. I did that to all my boys when they were younger.
Perfect.
Stick a little lightsaber in their hands and hold it. Yeah, I brought these guys up right. All right. If you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about tonight, you can reach us at our feedback line, 317-455-8411. You can text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at legendsofthedcu@gmail.com. All right, Cletus, coming up next week, we've got the Supergirl movie, and I'm excited to see that and talk about that. And we're going to have some guests coming on, so I know I'm looking forward to that movie. I've been rereading Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, anticipating the movie coming soon.
Yeah, I can't wait, Drew. I'm very excited for the film. I love the comic it's based on. I am very optimistic based on the trailers. I like the casting of Supergirl. I can't wait. I'm very, very excited for it.
I'm hoping Ruthie talks like she does in the comics in the movie, because that'll just be more funny. So I'm very curious to see how her portrayal is going to be in the movie.
I am too. I'm very curious to see how they adapt, because we know it won't be, a one-to-one, nor would I expect it to be.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it either, but
I am curious to what degree do they reflect the story. It seems, based on the trailer, that the basic impetus for the story seems pretty much the same. It's going to be interesting to see, going from there. Do they kind of like, hey, how we start, we kind of kick the ball off and get it rolling is the same, and then they deviate from there. I don't know. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I can't wait to see how they choose to tell the story. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we see some of the themes from the comic book, like the planet where we have the blue and purple people and things like that. So I'm just curious to see what it's going to look like. Very excited. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.